When I was 10 years old, my family literally couldn't afford food. We moved to London at 13 because my parents were searching for something better. Fast forward to 18, I'm sitting at minus £1,500 in my bank account, completely maxed out on overdraft. 3 months after that, I was managing $1.2 million in prop firm funding. In my first year alone, I went from that minus £1,500 to over $100,000. It wasn't about finding some magical strategy or the perfect indicator. It was one realization I had at 18 that completely flipped everything, and I'm about to tell you exactly how I did it. By the end of this, you'll understand why most traders fail and what separates the small percentage of people who actually make it. I know there's so many fake gurus out there, but I'm not here to waste anyone's time, so feel free to pause and check my credibility. You can see I scaled to $1.2 million in funding. I held onto it for over 400 days. I've been on multiple trading podcasts. Prop firms like Funded Next, Funding Pips, The Funded Trader, Alpha Capital Group, they've all personally invited me to their platforms. I'm literally on Alpha Capital's homepage. All of this started when I was 18. I'm 22 now. First year of trading, I went from minus £1,500 to over $100,000. Total to date, over $500,000. Let me take you back to when I was 10 years old in Italy. I had absolutely no idea that 8 years later I'd be managing over $1 million in trading capital. I need to be completely honest with you from the start. I didn't really come from money. I came from real struggle. When I was 10, my dad lost his job. Everything changed overnight. We had to move cities, change schools, leave everything behind. It got so bad that we couldn't even afford food. Like, I'm talking about family members bringing us meals because we had nothing in the fridge. My parents were generally considering moving back to their home country. That's how serious it was. I remember those nights, the conversations my parents would have when they thought I was asleep, the stress in their voices, the fear, that feeling of being completely powerless stuck with me. Last minute, my dad found something and we stayed in Italy. But that moment, that shaped everything about who I am. I saw the fear in my parents' eyes. I felt what it's like to be completely powerless. I promised myself I would never be in that position again. At 13, we moved to London. My parents wanted better opportunities, better education for us. It was a fresh start. But even in London, money was always the conversation. Always. I'd see other kids at school with new stuff, new toys, new clothes, new phones, everything. My parents tried to get me things even when they couldn't really afford it. I knew they were stretching themselves thin for me. But as I got older, I wanted more, way more than what they could provide. I wanted cars, houses, freedom, the ability to take care of my family without worrying about money ever again. From 13 to 18, I was in school in London. I was doing my GCSEs, then my A-levels. I was studying physics, maths, and product design. At the time, I had the typical Asian household mindset. Go to university, get a high-paying job, you'll be fine. Everyone was saying computer science degrees were the move, high earning potential, good job security, all that. So I was planning to go down that route, but something didn't sit right with me. I started looking at the actual numbers. I'd look for job positions for computer science graduates. 60k, 80k salaries. At first I thought, okay, that's decent money. Then I started doing the real calculations. There's nearly 40% tax in the UK on those salaries. So that 60k becomes like 36k after tax. Then I'd calculate mortgage payments. Easily £2,500 a month in London. Bills, food, transport, everything else. I realized I'd literally be working the entire day just to pay off things. No travel, no experiences, no real freedom. I'd be stuck in the middle class. And middle class has no time. They work all their time for their little toys that aren't even that nice. They're comfortable, but they're trapped. I knew the noble 9 to 5 wasn't going to get me where I wanted to be. I'd watched my parents struggle their entire lives with regular jobs. Even the high qualification jobs weren't paying life-changing money, so I knew I had to find something else. At 16, while I was still in school, I started my entrepreneurial journey. I was obsessed. I was willing to try anything. I first came across crypto. You see all these coins doing 100x, 1000x returns. Maybe I can get rich now. I borrowed like £100, £200 from my parents, lost it all. Then I started looking at the charts on these crypto apps. That's when I came across Forex. I tried for a few months, but it seemed like a scam. Every time I'd place a trade, it would just hit my stop loss. I was like, this is just gambling. You can't really make money with this. So I stopped trading for like a year. Went to try other businesses. E-commerce, dropshipping. I actually had a store selling this fiber floss thing. It was like a 3-in-1 to clean like AirPods, keyboards, laptops, all that. It wasn't a super viral product, but I was getting decent views on TikTok ads. I even did some UGC content for it myself, but I just couldn't make it work in the end. I lost like 4.5k to 5k pounds on that whole venture. Then Amazon FBA, I remember this so clearly. I was ordering crazy amounts of stock to my house. These massive heavy packages of cat food, shampoo bottles, deodorants, skincare products. My parents were like, what the hell are you doing? I'd spend hours packaging everything, labeling it, sending it all to Amazon warehouses. I had it all registered in my inventory. Then it would just be a price war. And that price war never ended well for me. The big players had thousands of products in inventory. They got everything way cheaper than me, so they could always undercut me. Their break-even price was way lower than mine. I'd undercut to try to move my inventory, and they just auto-undercut me right back. Amazon has these bots that automatically undercut based on thresholds. I had those tools too, but they were useless because I'd always get undercut. Lost another 2.5k to 3k pounds there. Every single thing I tried, I poured everything into it. My entire university student maintenance loan went into these businesses. They gave me like £8,000 total for the year because it was a low-income household. Every penny went into these ventures. One by one, they all collapsed. By 18, I hit rock bottom. Minus £1,500 in my bank account. Maxed out overdraft. No money, no results, just failure after failure. I remember sitting on my couch one night at like 2 a.m. on a Wednesday, just staring at the ceiling, thinking, what am I even doing? I just lost all this money. I was broke, completely broke. I called one of my friends. I was like, bro, I just lost everything. I don't know what to do. Why am I even doing this? And I couldn't really explain it to him. I just knew I couldn't give up. Something inside of me just refused to quit. Most people would have just given up at that point. They would have gone back to the safe route, get a job, work for someone else, just accept it. But I couldn't do that. After years of trying all these different things, I had this realization. Trading might actually be the best way to make money online. Think about it for a second. You have access to trillions of dollars right in front of you every single day. You only need to extract a tiny percentage of that to make life-changing money. No ads, no inventory, no suppliers, no dealing with manufacturers in China, sending you bricks instead of products, nothing physical. The upside is literally unlimited. It was the perfect business model, but I knew crypto wasn't it, so I turned to Forex, prop firms specifically. At 18 with £0 in my account, just some overdraft left. But here's the thing, I'd been studying trading for hundreds, probably thousands of hours at this point. I wasn't profitable yet, but I was learning, really learning. I was spending like 10 hours a day on the charts. I'd wake up, straight to the chart, go to bed, charts on my screen the entire day, researching, watching YouTube videos, testing strategies. I've probably watched every single trading video on YouTube at some point. ICT, smart money concepts, supply and demand, everything. I had this binder, it was like this thick, just full of notes on trading, everything I learned, every concept, every strategy. I still have that binder somewhere in my house. It's crazy to look back at it now. I was obsessed. Then I made a decision that changed everything. Here's how prop firms work. You pay a small fee to take a test. If you pass the test, they give you a massive trading account to trade with. You keep most of the profits. It's like they're saying, prove you can trade and we'll give you the money to do it. So I took my last £1,500, literally every penny I had left, and I bought a test for $300,000 trading account. Most people start with like a $10,000 or a $25,000 trading account. I went straight for $300,000, all in from day one. If this didn't work, I was done, completely finished. I actually failed our first challenge. It's the only challenge I've ever failed, and it wasn't even because of bad trading. I placed a trade and I went outside to play basketball with my friends. I was managing my trade remotely on my phone. Trying to control my desktop PC, I accidentally entered a high lot size trade. Price flew and breached my account. That taught me a massive lesson. Only trade at your setup and leave the trade alone. That's literally how I do it now. I place the trade and I'm done. I'm not on the charts again. So my bank account was at zero, but I had the option to take another overdraft. So I went again, bought another $300,000 challenge. Now my bank's at minus £1,500 and I have a 300k challenge running. A lot to work with, right? But God willingly, I made it work. I passed that evaluation. That's when everything just clicked. Within 3 months of passing that first eval, I scaled from $300,000 to $1.2 million in total funding. 3 months, from minus £1,500 to managing over $1 million. I held onto that funding for over 400 days. Since then, I've never blown a funded account, not once. In my first year of trading alone, I went from minus £1,500 to over $100,000 in profit. To this day, I've made over $500,000 from trading. I got featured on multiple trading podcasts: The Funded Trader, Funding Pips, Alpha Capital Group, Funded Next. Prop firms started personally inviting me to their platforms. I'm on Alpha Capital's homepage. Now look, the prop firm industry has its ups and downs. Firms shut down sometimes, things change. That's just part of the game. But the skill, that stays with you forever. That's what actually matters. Here's what nobody tells you though. It wasn't luck. It wasn't some secret strategy I stumbled upon. It was a complete shift in how I thought about trading. After spending thousands of hours on the charts, I realized something massive. I'd watched every YouTube video out there. I studied ICT, smart money concepts, all of it. You know what I realized? None of it was actually what I needed. Here's the problem with 99% of trading education. It's all discretionary. Everyone looks at the same chart and sees something completely different. One person says it's a liquidity sweep, another person says it's an inducement, someone else says it's a fair value gap. So what's actually happening? If everyone sees something different, how can you possibly be consistent? That's when mechanical trading made sense to me. A mechanical strategy has clear, concrete rules. It doesn't matter who's using it. The entries, the exits, the take profits, the stop losses, they're always the same, always consistent. That's when I became profitable. I spent thousands of hours on the charts. I'm not exaggerating. I would wake up with the charts on my screen, go to bed with charts on my screen. The entire day, I'd be researching, watching videos, testing strategies. After all that testing, I came to one conclusion. None of them gave me the clarity I actually needed. There was no clear way to say, this is what's happening, when everyone has a different interpretation. So I started thinking differently. I asked myself, is there a way where I can say XYZ is happening on the chart, and if I ask someone else using my system, they'll say the exact same thing? That's when mechanical trading clicked for me. My whole approach to trading became numbers-based. Let me give you an example of how simple my strategy can be. Every day at 2 o'clock, you press buy. With X amount of pips stop loss, X amount of risk, 1-to-1 risk to reward. This can't be messed up. If you just do that, buy every single day at that time, that's how simple my strategies can be. Now, there's downsides to strategies that simple. When you backtest it, it might not provide good results for the last 10 years. It might only work for the last year or two. But because I have so much experience backtesting and forward testing, if a strategy shows very good results for 2 years in the backtest, I'm confident I can run it for 6 months to a year in a forward test. That's basically a free money printer for the next 6 months to a year. The main skill isn't even the actual trading anymore. It's building these strategies in the back end while I run one profitable strategy. You either spend thousands of hours learning, testing, refining everything, or you take losses in the market until you learn the hard way. I chose time. Most people choose money. That's why most people fail. I never paid for a mentor, never paid for a course during my learning phase. I figured out there's two ways you can pay for your lessons in trading. Method one is with time. How much time you spend actually learning. And I mean actually learning, not just trying to learn, there's a difference. Method two is with money, by taking losses. Most people learn the hard way with money because they haven't spent the time required. Never copy someone's strategy without collecting your own data. You need to be one with your strategy. You need to know every single metric, Sharpe ratio, MAR ratio, everything. You can't just copy a system and expect it to work. You have to understand it completely. You have to collect hundreds of hours of data yourself. Most people that want to make it in trading, they try hard enough. Deep down, they believe if they try their best, they'll be profitable. But if they're not profitable, that means they haven't actually tried their best. The thing that's missing isn't even the strategy. It's them not trying hard enough. If you truly tried your best, you'd be profitable. Most people aren't willing to pay the cost. Everyone wants to be profitable, but they are not willing to spend thousands of hours on the charts. They're not willing to sacrifice. They're not willing to be alone. They're not willing to do what everyone else isn't doing. That's the difference between the 1% who make it and the 99% who don't. So what's the framework that changed everything for me? It's simple, it's mechanical, it prioritizes three things: structure, clear rule, no discretion, risk management. Protecting your capital is more important than making money. Consistency, doing the same thing over and over until it becomes second nature. This isn't about prediction, it's not about being right, it's about having a system that works and executing it perfectly every single time. I personally only trade Nasdaq. 5-minute time frame, no other time frame. I always go for one-to-one risk to reward, that's it. I look at the 5-minute time frame, I check if there's red news, I avoid it. If there's no red news, I look at the chart and do my thing. Normal support and resistance trading. Very simple. Over a long enough period of data, I have an edge in the markets. I only get like 10 trades a month max. Even though I'm scalping, I only take the highest probability setups. I filter them out. You record the data of all your trades. Eventually you see some trades have similarities. Those are the ones you lose the most on. Filter those out. Filter certain times out. Narrow down to the highest performing setups. Most people are using discretionary strategies. They're trying to identify highs, lows, liquidity sweeps, inducements, fair value gaps. All of that is too discretionary to be mechanical. Nobody using those strategies is consistently profitable for years like I've been. This isn't luck. This isn't some secret strategy. This is thousands of hours of work, a mechanical framework, relentless execution. I don't really have an interest in trading itself. I'm just interested in making money. Trading is the one that worked. If I found something else that made me more money than trading, I'd do that. I've never suffered from overtrading, revenge trading, any of that. Once there's a loss, I accept it and move on. I don't know how people let numbers on a screen impact their mindset. Sure, it might have happened once on a demo account, but once I saw what happened, I realized this is not the right way. I don't do it. I don't really feel emotions with trading. Like recently, I had a big month, close to $40K, but I was just over it the next day. It's just numbers. The only difference between where I was and where I am now is the decisions I made. My goal is to show everyone that trading is actually possible. Becoming profitable is 100% possible if you put in the time and effort. I spent thousands of hours on the charts before I became profitable. There's a cost. Most people aren't willing to pay it. You either pay with time or with money. I want to show people that if a normal guy like me can do this, they can too. We're not different. It's just a mindset difference. If you're serious about becoming a profitable trader, here's what you need to do. Stop jumping from strategy to strategy. Stop watching endless hours of useless YouTube videos. Find a mechanical framework that actually works. Backtest it for hundreds of hours. Execute it consistently. There's literally no magical formula. Just put the hours in or get the right people to learn from their mistakes. The truth is, they're wasting time jumping around instead of focusing on one strategy with pure dedication and endless hours of backtesting. If you want the exact mechanical framework that took me from minus £1,500 to over $500,000 in trading profits, I've put it all together in Prop Accelerator. This isn't some surface level course. I'm teaching you my exact system one-on-one. The same system that got me funded, the same system that kept me funded for over 400 days, the same system that got me on podcasts and invited by the biggest prop firms. If it works for me, it works for you. Links in the description. Let's get you funded.